Hi, what's up, folks? It's your boy Chonu. You could call me Chombos. A little bit of a different video today, but I'm gonna be giving y'all a little bit of game today, okay? Or a lot of it of game, bro. Okay. I got my notes here. Okay. So if you're just starting out with music and all this, audio recording and all this bullshit, right? Trying to figure out how to get that professional sound. Okay. First of all, if you got TikTok brain, this is gonna be just go ahead and skip out the video right now, bro. I'ma just be yapping, okay? I'ma just be yapping. If you take away something good from it, then good for you, okay? But yeah, if you're just starting out, bro, you're probably getting frustrated, like, yo, I've tried everything, literally, bro. How do I get the professional sound, bro? Trust me, I've been in your shoes, man. And okay, a little bit of like, why should you even trust me? Okay, why should you even trust me? Why should you listen to me? Okay, I've been making music for, I think, the better part of 8 years now. Started from this same bedroom that I'm sitting in right now. This is my mom's house. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah. Okay. Recording on pretty shitty mics. Okay. So I know it from A to Z pretty much. And you could go on my channel. This is my channel right here. My music channel. Listen to my latest, my latest release. And you make a decision, whether or not you can listen to me or not. Okay. But let's get started, bro. Let's get started. Okay. So the first thing, right? It's not just one secret thing that's gonna change your whole mix. There's no secrets. It's a bunch of little things that stack up. You probably heard this before. You don't understand what it means fully, but we gonna get into that, okay? We gonna get more into that. But you gotta start the mix from the ground up, literally, okay? From the ground up. What do I mean by that, okay? It starts really from the production. It starts from the beat itself, okay? It starts from the production, okay? First thing is the sound selection. I'm not gonna go too in detail with that because that's a producer thing. That's not an engineering thing, okay? But you gotta pick the right sounds, okay? If you're gonna make the song sound right, okay? I don't know how to explain that. There's no tweaking of sounds, post process. You know what I mean? You can't change the sound of a snare too much in the mixing phase, okay? That's the production stuff, okay? So there's the sound selection. You gotta make sure the song sounds right before you even try to mix it, okay? Okay, you gotta make sure it sounds right before you even try to mix it, bro, okay? And then there's the arrangement. We're gonna talk about the arrangement a little bit. Okay, I learned this in music school. I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but okay, there's limited space within any given mix. Okay, when you make a digital recording, there's limited space. Okay, I know we talk a lot about 0 dB FS, but there's also like frequency wise 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. There's limited space. So what do I mean by that? Okay, speaking as like a hip hop guy, right? Talking about like maybe, for example, the kick, right? The kick, and then the snare, right? These sit in different positions in the frequency spectrum, guys. Okay, they sit in different spots, right? You got the bass, the kick and the bass. That's a really important thing. Okay, if you pick two samples that sit in the same position on the frequency spectrum for the kick and the bass, your record isn't gonna be loud. It's not gonna be loud. Okay, so this is part of the production thing. Okay, you gotta pick a kick and a bass instrument that's gonna fit together. Okay, okay, you gotta give the kick its own space, you gotta give the bass its own space. And one mistake I see a lot of producers make is they'll have an 808, they'll have a low kick, right, and still have a bass on top of that, right? Like, how do you expect to your mix to be loud? Okay, how do you even expect your mix to be loud? Tell me. Okay, okay, but aside the frequency space, you also have the panning space. Okay, you also have to give each instrument its own space within the mix, panning wise. Okay, I know we always talk about the kick and the bass going down the middle. People starting to break those rules a little bit these days, but I still keep my stuff down the middle, especially if it's below 100 hertz. Everything is mono. Okay, okay, it just gives it more power. I don't know how to explain, but okay, right. So you gotta pan each instrument. If you want to have, like, for instance, you got a guitar, right? You got a trumpet instrument, you got some keys. You know, keys, they usually have like low frequency stuff, so you gotta make space for that. Okay, pan the guitar left, pan the trumpet right. You gotta give each instrument its own space. Okay, typically what I'll do is pan the whole mix before I add any plugins, any effects, right, such that it sits properly within the mix without anything. And then I'll put it in mono, make sure it's mono compatible, right? And then you continue with the mix from there. Okay, you gotta get these basic foundations right before you even try any effects, guys. Okay, that was me talking about the space, right? On to the next point. Okay, it should sound right. I'm gonna stress this. It should sound good before you even mix it. Okay, I'm gonna stress this. It should, especially if you're listening on monitors, like on speakers, it should sound decent before you even try to mix it. I know most of y'all mixing on HS8s, maybe you got the Atoms. If you're a bedroom producer like me, it should sound good before you mix it. Whoa. Okay. Okay, I know it's, bro, trust me. When I first heard that, I was like, what you mean? Most of my mixes sound trash before I mix them. You feel me? Nah, it should sound good before you mix it. Get that in your head. Okay, I talked about the no overlapping instruments, especially in the lower frequencies. We'll get into that a bit more in detail later. Okay, now we're going to talk about the battle for amplitude without losing voltage. Okay, I know people like Jason Joshua have a lot of information on this. Okay, if you're confused, go watch more videos from him, right? But what it basically means, right? When you mix, right, you have basically that 0 dB FS point, the part where you're gonna start to clip, right? And then you have everything before that, right? So when you mix and you layer instruments on top of each other, right, that's basically what mixing is, right? You want to make it such that when the signal adds together, okay, you can get more perceived loudness without registering on the digital that it's louder, if that makes any sense. Okay. I'm gonna get into more detail with this later, but okay, one of the methods you use to do that is, okay, I think there's three pillars, keep these in mind. Okay, three pillars. Number one, okay, number one is side chaining. Okay, but not in the way that you think. Okay, I know you probably heard side chaining before. Oh, you gotta side chain the kick to the bass. Oh, you feel me? But especially these days, side chaining, there's a lot more detail. You can do it in more detail. Okay, first of all, first of all, before we even go there, if you're gonna get a pro mix these days, bro, you gotta have all the freaking plugins. Let's not skip over that part. You gotta have all the plugins. No joke, bro. You gotta have all the plugins, because I'm gonna talk about side chaining right now, right? Side chaining, especially with the kick and the bass, right? We have this. I learned this from Jason Joshua, right? With Soothe, right? With Soothe, if you look at the plugin Soothe, you sidechain the kick to the bass, right? If you do it regularly, it's gonna duck the whole bass, as soon as the kick hits, right? But typically that doesn't sound very good. Okay, what you want is more like it ducks the frequency where the kick is hitting, so that you're still getting that oomph for the bass, but you can hear the kick clearly. Clearly, you feel me? I know, I forget the name of the other guy, but he does this with the RTA plugin too. You could, as long as you do a similar thing. Okay, once you get the kick and the bass down, especially with hip hop, bro, the rest of the mix kind of falls into place. Okay, but keep that in mind, right? Side chaining, you can side chain the vocal, especially to the music as well. Okay, using a plugin like Track Spacer or something like that. Okay, Soothe could work as well, but you could experiment with that, right? RTA plugin, the RTA, I forget what it's called again, the Waves plugin. Side chaining, okay, that's a serious pillar for getting a commercial mix, bro. Trust me. Trust me. Pillar number two. Okay, pillar number two is parallel processing. God, bro. The amount of time it took me to understand this, bro. Parallel processing. I know you've heard this before, probably, parallel processing, and then there's the bus summing. Like, okay, parallel processing, bro, you could parallel process pretty much anything. Pretty much anything. Okay, now keep in mind there's limited space within the mix. Okay, so you gotta emphasize some things in your mix. It's not everything that's gonna shine at once. Okay, but parallel processing, especially if you're a hip hop guy like myself, you must parallel process the bass, the drums. Sorry, not the bass. Parallel process the drums. Okay, you have another bus that you route your drums to. Compress the jazz out of that shit, bro. Compress the hell out of that channel, bro, and then sum them. Again, if it's somebody like Jason Joshua, he uses the whole NLS bus trick. You gotta get creative with it. Use your ears. Okay, if you're an engineer, you gotta use your ears. Okay. Parallel processing. You can parallel process your vocal. Whoa. Okay. I know it. Some of you guys, you're sitting there with your, in your bedroom. Okay, you're with your beats. You probably got the beat off of YouTube or something. Okay, you're trying to mix vocals, and your vocal is literally sitting inside the beat, like, bro. Bro, trust me, learn to parallel process your vocal, especially rap music, pop music, every kind of music actually. Most people parallel process their vocal. Anything that you want to stand out in the mix, parallel process it. And you don't just parallel process compression. Whoa. Okay. That's another thing. It's not just compression. Okay, you can parallel process pretty much anything you can think of. This is where I'm gonna get y'all. Your mind's gonna go wild, bro. Okay, you can parallel process any effect, any plugin, anything, bro. Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna leave y'all with that one for a little bit. Okay. Then there's the bus summing. Bus summing, I recommend you do bus summing just so you could tweak each part of the mix. Like you have your drums, you got your vocal, you got your music, you got your effects. You wanna process them holistically, right? Process them holistically. Okay, if you wanna add a little bit of EQ, just so it sits properly. Okay, and usually there's certain types of EQs that you use for this. I'm not gonna go into too much detail with that, but okay, that's it for parallel processing. Okay, I've been yapping for way too long. Okay, there was one more pillar, bro. Dang. Right. Ah. Right. If you want to get a commercial sound, bro, analog. You need something analog in your mix, bro. I know people do analog summing these days, but if you're like me, you don't got that much money. I'm gonna make a whole nother video on this later. But okay, there's certain DAWs you could do like analog summing, but it's still digital. Like in Luna, there's like analog summing. There's tape summing in Luna. Just look it up. Just look it up. But if you're like me, right? You want to get that actual analog sound on a budget? Okay. There's a way to do it. Well, if you want a professional mix, let's just put it like this. You need to run your stems through something analog just so you have that separation, that saturation. Otherwise, your mix gonna sound digital. Okay? Okay? But yeah. For me, what I do, I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of my sauce, man. Okay, a little bit of my sauce. I'm not gonna tell y'all how I do it just yet, but here's a clue. I basically sum my mix on my interface. Whoa, okay. If you have a little bit of money, you can buy like a cheap mixer, like a regular mixer, just like a regular mixer, and sum your mix through the mixer. Okay, I'm just giving y'all ideas. I'm gonna make a whole separate video on this alone. Okay, but basically what you do, you get some patch cables, you know, take the outs on your interface, route them back to the ins. Hopefully you have more than one in on your interface. Route them back, rerun the stems through your DAW, right? Reprint them individually, right? Typically I have my drum bus, I got my vocal bus, I got my music bus, my effects bus. I route them one by one. Sorry for hitting the mic. Okay, route them one by one back into my DAW. Okay, and I reprint them. Then I sum them with my effects on my sum bus. Okay, on my bus. Okay, on my master bus, and then boom. Okay, that's my mix. I usually put a little bit of tape on my master. Okay, just so you get that effect. And then I usually do this in Luna as well, so I still get that analog digital summing, but it's still, bro. If you get what I'm saying, you get what I'm saying. Okay, I still go back into Luna and use their summing, okay, in Luna, okay, just so I get the maximum potential. Okay, then boom, I send my mix off for mastering. That's it. Boom. I don't know much about mastering. I'm not gonna talk too much about that. If you want to get a radio ready mix, a pro mix, that's what we talking about. Okay. And number, okay, that's the three pillars. That's the three pillars. Okay. Now I'm gonna talk a little bit about breaking the rules. Okay. Keep in mind I'm reading off my notes, so I'm not just yapping. Okay. Okay. You gotta break the rules sometimes in your mix. Okay. I feel like each mix has to have something special about it. Otherwise, I can't really call it a pro mix. Like, nah. It's gotta have something special about it, right? What do I mean by breaking the rules? Okay, I'm gonna give an example. One time I had this sample. It was a sample based beat, right? Sample based beat, right? But the sample was pretty much mono. It had both channels, but it was mono. It was basically coming down the middle. If you use the analyzer, if you know how to use an analyzer, coming down the middle. Okay. And then I was like, this thing is just not wide enough. It's not wide enough. And it was like just a sample for the beat. You feel me? And then it was the sample and the vocal. Okay. I was like, nah, this is not gonna work. So I figured this out. I forget who I saw this from. Okay, but if you know the ATG mastering thing from Waves, okay, you could basically flip. I'm gonna make a whole different video on my IG about this probably. Okay, shameless plug. Follow me on IG. I'm gonna put my IG maybe somewhere here. Okay, okay. But you use the ATG mastering thing, right? And you could flip the phase of the sample 90 degrees, not 180 degrees, just 90 degrees. Okay. So I did that, okay, on that record, okay. And trust me, that's not by the book by any means, bro. That is not by the book by any means, but it sounded good. It sounded good. I got that width that I wanted. There were obviously gonna be phasing issues. You feel me? But the record sounded good, better than it would have sounded. Okay, and that's what I mean by you gotta always innovate in your mix, bro. Use your ears. Every mix gotta be special. You feel what I'm saying? If you want to take it to that next level, every mix gotta be special. Okay. Okay, the final thing before I end the video, keep it professional, you know. You gotta keep it professional. What do I mean by that? Okay, make sure you're eliminating all of the pops, all of the sibilants, all of the, you know, all of the scratchiness from your mix. If you wanna, especially if that's not what you're intending, you know what I mean. It's different if you want to make like a kind of grimy mix. But if that's not what you're going for, you know, eliminate all those pops, all those, you know, those breaths that are unnecessary. Make it clean. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And yeah, man, it's been your boy Chonu. You could call me Chombos. Okay. Okay. If you got something from this video, go ahead and subscribe. This is my channel. This is my music channel. I make music. I'm a rapper. Okay. Okay. If you learned anything in the slightest, man. Okay. Support your boy. Follow me on socials. I'm gonna leave all my socials probably somewhere on the screen. Okay. And then if you want to book me for a mix, right, go ahead and DM me on IG or something. Okay, and we could work something out. Okay. Other than that, man, it's been your boy. Have a good day. Peace. Fuck you know.